Many New York Mets teams throughout the club's history have had off years. A great modern-day tale can be seen in the 06 and 08 seasons. But with the club's acquisition by Steve Cohen, it's fair to say that the Mets hope to leave the struggles and conflicts in the past under new ownership. But so far, it's been hard to justify the $380 million team that Cohen has financed. In 2023, at the All-Star break, the Mets were sitting at 4th in the NL East rankings, with a 42-48 record and sitting 7 games out from attaining a wild card. A ridiculous 18.5-game lead for the division that grows wider every day thanks to the ever-hot Atlanta Braves. The Mets' hope this season is to snag one of 2 wild card spots. The Mets have lost series left and right, and back in May against the Cincinnati Reds, they dropped 5 series in a row for the first time in a decade. In their last series before the second half of the season, the Mets were hoping to wrap up a deflated first few months, but to no avail, dropping an important series against the San Diego Padres 2-1. So where exactly is this team going wrong? Many analysts and commentators have been speculating for weeks, if not months, on why this supposed World Series or bust team is just not winning. So, let's take a look at some of the issues for the Mets this season. The Mets' hitting has been subpar in simple terms this year, especially from a majority of talented hitters that have produced for the Mets in the past. Mark Canha is having a downturn year after a strong 2022 season with the Mets. Same could be said about 2-time Gold Glover Sterling Marte. Last year was a smashing success for guys like Jeff McNeil, who took home the NL batting championship title, batting .326. Now, he's at .253 with 42 strikeouts on the season at the halfway mark. While he's been hitting the ball harder, he hit a major slump towards the end of the month of June and is looking to reset heading into this second half. Polar Bear Pete Alonso has been a swing-for-the-fences kind of guy. He's a home run derby regular at this point, and that is only emphasized in his current game. And while he's valuable for his home runs, his batting average is currently sitting at .211. Another disappointing hitter this year has been Daniel Vogelbach, who came to the team with promise that he could showcase some prowess at the DH spot, garnering walks and base hits. Yet, so far, he hasn't lived up to that hype, only with a .225 batting average, a .335 OBP, a .355 slugging, and a .690 OPS. With multiple Mets in the starting lineup struggling, it is hard for this team to score runs. Even scarily, when they do get runs, they haven't been able to hold on to their leads. But let's transition to another problem, this one maybe a little less obvious in the clubhouse. Many secrets are hush-hush in the front office and within management that very rarely make it into the press to keep the allure of baseball's inner workings quiet. However, one ex-Met has been sharing his input on the time with the franchise and has revealed some interesting insights. J.D. Davis played on the New York Mets from 2019 to 2022, coming off a 2-season stint in Houston with the Astros. Davis had tons of promise as a third baseman for the Mets, as the other third basemen were not performing to their highest level in Jed Lowry and Todd Frazier. In what was one of the worst Met trades in current day, at last season's trade deadline, the Mets acquired outfielder Darren Ruff from the San Francisco Giants. In return, the Mets sent infielder J.D. Davis, a left-hander, and 2 pitching prospects to San Francisco. Davis has now hit a stride with the Giants, and he cites most of his offensive prowess to that of former Mets hitting coach Chili Davis. In the 2021 season, Chili was fired after 22 games, to the dismay of many Mets players. In an interview with MLB.com, Davis spoke on his relationship with Chili. Chili Davis means everything to me. He is the pillar of influencing me and helping me spread my wings and be a little more confident, finding my footing here in the big leagues. Now, Davis is speaking on his opinions of what he sees in the current Mets clubhouse. I haven't been in that clubhouse and talked to that many guys over there, Davis said via David Lennon of Newsday. But there's a sense of, I wouldn't say panic, but definitely a sense of walking on eggshells over there. Now, the Mets hitting coach is Jeremy Barnes, who spent some time in the Houston Astros organization as a minor league hitting coordinator. Many people have been critical of Barnes for having such little experience as a professional hitting coach, and it may not be out of the question to see him moved out of the role come the end of the season. Obviously, not hitting takes a toll on the guys on the field, and it seems like the Mets are feeling the pressure, especially heading into a time where some guys can be on the chopping block. Whether or not we truly know what is going on behind closed doors, it's fair to say that there could be concerns with the Mets managing staff, especially since Steve Cohen has yet to name a president of baseball operations, as that role is currently held by GM Billy Epler, after dismissing Sandy Alderson earlier this year. While Mets fans were elated at the prospect of having two decorated pitchers leading their team this year, the result after the first half of the season has left much to be desired. A combined $86 million in salary eats away at a huge chunk of the Mets' finances, as Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer can't seem to return to their Cy Young form. Sure, they're 40 and 38 years old respectively, but it begs the question in whether or not this was the right move for the Mets. Verlander has a .440 ERA and a .443 FIP across 45 innings, but taking a look at more of his advanced stats can reveal some troubling trends. The 40-year-old has allowed significantly more hard contact, his hard hit rate allowed has gone up, and his average exit velocity allowed has also gone up, both shifting significantly into the wrong direction. He also has a less than impressive, for Verlander, stat of a 21.0% strikeout rate. Scherzer has a .445 ERA and a .436 FIP in 56 2/3 innings. His fastball velocity has fallen to a career-low 93.4 miles per hour, and the whiff rate on his slider has plummeted from 46.4 to 30.3%. On a brighter note, new additions like Kodai Senga have proven to be interesting, with Senga's use of the ghost fork pitch. In his first year in Major League Baseball, he is holding a .331 ERA and a .385 FIP. He holds a 29.5% strikeout rate, much better than the 22.7 league average. Jose Quintana has been absent from the Mets roster all season due to an injury. Quintana had surgery to treat a lesion on his ribs in March and is yet to pitch this season. But just before the second half began, he reached the maximum allowed during his rehab window, and he will be activated from the injured list. But even with these additions to the starting pitching roster, they still need dramatic help from the veteran guys to maintain a win. Scherzer has been notorious over his past few starts for giving up the long ball, and even if the Mets make it through a measly 5 innings with their starter, the bullpen has had a hard time picking up the slack, especially without closer Edwin Diaz. But you can't blame everything on injuries. These guys have to step it up to the mound and take charge like the all-star veterans we know them as. The Mets have tried to do what many big-name teams do, buy a team to win a World Series. So far, after the first half, it doesn't seem to be working. Yet, on another front, developing young talent like Francisco Alvarez has worked extremely well, and he looks to become one of the most dominant catchers in the game today. So now looking at the second half, the Mets aren't completely dead in the water, even if the numbers seem very difficult to overcome. It's going to take 45 wins for the Mets to get to the 87 win mark, and there isn't much room for error. Only 27 losses are allowed during this time. The 45-27 record comes out to a .625 winning percentage. In comparison, the Tampa Bay Rays, at 58-35 now, prior to the All-Star break, have a .624 winning percentage. The Mets would have to play at a pace slightly better than they have this season in order to see postseason baseball. The Mets are going to drop off some players that are holding the team back in terms of hitting. Without runs for this team, the Mets can't support their pitchers, and going absolutely cold to the plate has been a problem for many Mets hitters this season. All in all, the Mets have a lot of ground to make up in this wildcard race, but it truly would be amazing to see them back in the wildcard this year. For WFUV Sports, I'm Maddie Bimonte.